presentation on the site.
There are also members of the commission, Lisa Gasney and Hendrick Ackerman, representing the applicant. We provided you with a presentation at the last hearing back in November, as well as you know, there was a long and full public hearing as well. We are prepared to present again, but if perhaps in the interest of your time that might not be necessary, that is your choice.
Have there been developments between then and now?
Yes, Commissioner, when we left the meeting in November, based on direction and comments from the District Commissioner, Commissioner Hardiman, that more could be done with respect to community benefits. And so what our team has done as we have worked with Commissioner Hardiman's office and coming up with a revised program of community benefits that would be incorporated in the development agreement and substitute the existing provisions. I will tell you that by any measure, it is a much more robust and more expensive package of community benefits. And so I would defer to Commissioner Hardiman to explain those to the Commission and to the community. And so with respect to that, if we can proceed on the basis on which I believe will be outlined, I will have some additional matters to enter into the record in terms of correcting scrivener's errors and a revised regulating plan and development agreement to reflect the new community benefits. But I would defer to Commissioner Hardiman in terms of how we'd like to present.
Thank you. And the new community, we don't have that in our backup, correct? That is being proffered today?
Yes.
Okay.
Did I make a Jennings disclosure last time? I think I did. If not, I'll continue the continuing Jennings disclosure. Basically, that says that I've met with a number of different individuals that represent both the developers and also members of the community to discuss issues that they felt were important to them regarding these issues. So, I think everyone understands that. I made it very clear that was going to happen as well in our last meeting. So first I want to start by talking about community benefits. So community benefit agreements basically started when there were lots of different large-scale developments that were happening within certain communities. So most of the time it was some sort of sports arena, high-rise projects, etc. And they allowed basically the community to negotiate with these developers in order to get some sort of benefit out of them. Most of the CBAs that existed beyond, say, for instance, what we do here in South Florida, they all were tied to some sort of public give. There was always a tax give, tax breaks, things of the nature that gave that public entity something. And so the people that were surrounding the area wanted to have some sort of return, if you will, for what was given by the government. And we know that development can produce many positive outcomes for communities, such as government attention, increased service to the neighborhood involved in the development, entertainment, increased tax base, and increased property values. However, we're also very aware that increased development can cause issues like gentrification. And, you know, the one thing I want to say this definition of gentrification generally, because a lot of people misunderstand what it's all about. People think that it's usually about color. Gentrification is not about color. It's not about race. It's about class. It's about earning potential. So generally speaking, gentrification is an influx of more affluent residents into a space where people were less affluent, and it changed the demographic of the area, causing the previous residents to relocate. Typically, it's because of the the amenities that are bought with that redevelopment. So now, you move into the area, we put a Starbucks and a Whole Foods, and you get rid of the, if you're from Miami, we call it a wash house, which is a laundromat for those who've never been to one. But a corner store, right, is replaced with, a corner store is a convenience store, where you're going to spend a significant amount of money for a fresh fruit, or you probably won't be able to buy fresh fruit at that space. So there are just certain products and certain services that are provided in lower income communities that have no purpose in a community that is more affluent. And so the displacement causes many residents who can no longer afford to, especially rent in those communities. It's typically, the larger displacement is because of the base of the rent. Because if you own in a space like that, you can still maintain your home. If you're renting, typically because the value of the lease increases, you're moved out. And so anytime you have large developments, you have the potential of increasing the rents in the areas. And we know throughout the United States and other places around the world that the cost of rental housing is increasing rapidly. And so knowing this, when we looked at this opportunity here with this project, we thought to ourselves, what can we do in the city of Miami to create community benefits, not public benefits? They're very different. A public benefit can be better in the streets in the neighborhood. It can be planting trees. It can be a number of different things that cause the public to have a better experience with the neighborhood. But I really consider community benefits to be an opportunity for some things that are beyond the norm. Things that are something that can really give a helping hand to those who are part of a neighborhood, who've traditionally always been there, to give them an opportunity to really to exist in a space and feel welcome there. And so the first thing I'd like to say is that I'm happy that Magic City decided that they thought it was necessary to come up with a community benefit that made sense. In our community in Little Haiti, there were a number of entities that were excited about the opportunity to meet and discuss with developers the potential benefits that could work for their community. Many of them did do just that, and some of them created their own really community benefit arrangement. But the problem with community benefit agreements with community members that are not with the government is that many times across the nation they lack enforceability. And so we've seen in other places where the community organization just did not have the wherewithal to challenge or to enforce the document that was provided to them. And so when you partner with the government has the resources that's necessary to ensure that people are not taken advantage of. The government has the resources necessary to hold someone's foot really to the flame, to the fire. And so in this arrangement, we've met with a number of different people from the Little Haiti community, and I'm excited that although it was not always easy, we've all come to an accord where we believe that if this project is to move forward in this community, that this community benefit is going to be something that we can all stand behind. And so there was a community benefit that was arranged, and on a high level scale of things, and I'm sure this is probably going to be reduced to writing that is going to be produced before our second reading. There is an agreement with the Little Haiti community where there is going to be a contribution from Magic City to the tune of $31 million for the benefit of the Little Haiti community. The $31 million is not going to all come at one time. $6 million of this $30 million is going to be an upfront payment, essentially due within 180 days or so from the time that this is the special area plan. If it is passed, and it is not one that can be appealed. Of the $6 million, with the $6 million and what comes thereafter, is going to be put in trust for the Little Haiti community. And so what that means is that there's going to be legislation that's going to come before this body that's going to create a Little Haiti Community Revitalization Trust. And what we will do is we will appoint members of this body to that board. That board is going to consist of people from the community, and they're going to discuss different ways that the monies that are available can be used for that community. They vote. They determine the priority. They make a recommendation. They provide it to the city commission, and the city commission can either affirm or deny, really that recommendation, because it gives us the checks and balances that we need to ensure that the money is being used the right way for that community. Some of the ideas that you have for use of those funds would be development of affordable workforce housing, community educational programming, local and small business development, local workforce participation and hiring programs, beautification of Little Haiti, and amongst some other things. One of the major issues that we've been talking about, not only in this community but in other communities, is whether or not there's going to be affordable housing that's available to people. Something that was mentioned in one of my meetings before, that there was a gentleman that brought up vacant lots that are in the possession of the city of Miami, and they're generally held by CDBG. I know the CDBG department is probably listening at this point. But many of these properties were actually held in trust. Some of these were in the Liberty City Community Revitalization Trust before they moved to the CDBG. And so I'm saying this on this day is because part of the power of a community redevelopment trust, of a revitalization trust, is what it has. If it has money, if it has land, if it has those two things, it can create a true value for the community. And so what I envision, I'm not on the board, but what I envision is that we can empower a place like Little Haiti with as much as $31 million and with land, so that they can create affordable housing for themselves. And the way that I envision it is that, one, in Little Haiti and parts of Little Haiti, there is a need where we know that they have multifamily housing, duplexes, triplexes, etc. So the density is relatively high on smaller lots. We know that there's lots of land that's being bought to cause special area plans, etc., to move forward. And so what we can potentially have, if everything lines up, is the upzoning of smaller lots of land where they're allowed to have quadplexes, where you also then have, the city of Miami has government-owned land, and where we can use some of these dollars that are there in this type of trust to cause the development of properties in that area. And if the city of Miami is, participating in this, you can almost build to cost, because we don't need to make a profit. But what we can do is we can sell those properties so that people have ownership in the community. Now you have quadplexes where people have ownership, and you can ensure that they have some affordable housing that will remain affordable and not fluctuate with the market as the area median income increases. And if we're able to do that, and every time someone sells a property, we get our money back that we invested in it, and we build more. We get it back, and then we build more. And the idea is to create one housing that's owned by people who are indigenous to that land. If those people are Bahamian, if those people are Haitian, you don't know. you don't know. But we do know that there are lots of people who left Little Haiti that would love to come back, or who want to live there, who want to remain there, and we want to be able to affect that sort of ownership in Little Haiti and just ensure that it's not occupied by people who mean the best for the city of Miami, but just are not reflective of what the neighborhood once was. And so I appreciate that Magic City will help us along this way. And this also serves as really a notice. And this is probably one of the biggest gives that we've had when it comes to an SAP ever in the city of Miami. And to go to a neighborhood like this is tremendous, because this is a neighborhood that has needed the benefit of new dollars into its community. And in District 5, we fought very, very hard to always bring new dollars into our neighborhoods. I like these dollars because they're not restricted in the way that other dollars through the federal government or whomever else are restricted. That the community has a real opportunity to assign these dollars to the best way they see fit. I wouldn't think that the community would squander its dollars, because then that's why we're here, to ensure that it's safeguarded. But I would hope that whomever becomes a member of the Revitalization Trust for Little Haiti really truly understands the mission that is there. That this is a way that you can help rebuild and maintain a community of people that are there to watch the culture of this place called Little Haiti really flourish. There are a number of different individuals that played a major part in getting some of these dollars assigned to this development. But in the spirit of making this, one move, one mission, one people, moving toward what we're trying to do, I'm just going to describe, where we are. And so, the community benefit that's been negotiated at this point is something that I've been told by members of the community that reside, that work, and that make Little Haiti a better place to be, say that this is something that is acceptable to them, to be used to really thwart the effects of possible gentrification because of the effect of Magic City in Little Haiti. And so we know that there's the minutia of the details that are going to be included in the development agreement, along with the community benefit agreement, that is all going to be traveling together. And we know what the spirit of the deal is and what the major points of the deal is. And so with that, I would move that we accept the item and approve the SAP, inclusive of the community benefits agreement and of the promises that Magic City has made to the residents that live and work within the Little Haiti community.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Really? Okay, so there's a motion. There's a second. This is really big news. This amount of money coming to a community. I want to certainly understand exactly what this means. If we get this right, it's tremendously beneficial for a very needy neighborhood. If we get this wrong, what I was talking about just a couple hours ago of the slow creep of gentrification and displacement could be absolutely astronomically faster through a project of this size. So I want to make sure we get it right. Is this being proffered as a covenant between first and second, or is this being proffered now as an amendment to the first reading?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, if I may, we have documents to submit which encompass the specifics that Commissioner Hardiman, I think, is.
Got it. And so that's what this is being passed out now.
Okay.
And this is the benefits agreement. So,
If I may just.
Yes.
With permission. And first, I know I speak on behalf of ownership, much of which is here tonight, including the lead, Neil Fairman, and our entire team, in commending and thanking Commissioner Hardiman for this very thoughtful and visionary proposal of how to benefit the Little Haiti community. I remember when there was, I think last time we came before, there was a bemoaning of the fact that CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Funds, which used to be such an important funding source for projects like this, have been eliminated over the last few decades. What Commissioner Hardiman has negotiated is the most generous current benefit package that any SAP has provided. With that, and I would reiterate, I think as you all know as well, this project is of such great economic benefit and provides so much opportunity for the community. Now Commissioner Hardiman has made sure that all the impacts are taken care of and considered. The three things we are adding, just to be clear, that I passed out, which has been distributed before. One, there were scrivener's errors in the SAP and development agreement that were provided on November 15th. Number two, we are providing the revised development agreement, which incorporates the community benefit provisions that Commissioner Hardiman has laid out, which also will replace among other things, most specifically will replace the provision of affordable and workforce housing as separate and independent from that. This pot of money will do what Commissioner Hardiman provides. I would also let you know that we are getting no credit towards anything for the additional green space and other things that previously were going to be credited against and be able to be used for bonus floor lot ratio. In this instance, floor lot ratio is a matter of right, but there are $31 million in payments that must be made towards obtaining and utilizing all of those rights. So that's what's before you, is the scrivener's errors, corrections, the revised development agreement, the revised regulating plan, which also reflects those changes. And with that, of course, we request your vote.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So, yes, Commissioner Reyes.
Yes, I gotta commend Commissioner Hardiman because this is a good deal, and you know, it is our duty as an elected official to oversee that the funds are going to be used effectively.
Yes.
But I want to include in the benefits something that concerns me, and I think that will help the community. And it is the employment of residents. You see, give them priority when in the construction phase of all this big project. Include as many residents as possible. Even and also, and we had this conversation before. And that even those in those instances that you have a need for employment, and you don't find people that have the training that for you to provide training through some of the technical schools or the of Miami-Dade Community College, whatever, in order to employ more residents, Little Haiti residents or minority residents as possible, so they could benefit and those affordable housing that is going to be built have the source of income that they can either buy it or rent it.
Commissioner, we have committed to both of those requests, which are incorporated in the development agreement.
And another question, you don't have anything to do with Magic City Casino?
No. Different man.
No, because I was thinking, yeah, maybe you want to open up, and that is a different story.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. My understanding part that the benefit is going to be educational program for the community to make sure, because a lot of times we have people coming in and says, yes, we want to employ within the community, but unfortunately a lot of the people are not qualified for some of the jobs. So I want to make sure that through the unions and all that, they do qualify people, make sure, and especially with the new changes that's taking place today. I mean, this is very important. Today, if you don't know how to handle on your list, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to get a high-paying job. And this is where it all comes together. At the same time, my understanding is you got a lot of home ownership. Because to me, home ownership is very important.
Yes.
And we have a program in the city of Miami which is first-time buyers. They can get a lot of benefit in second mortgages and money up front to do the purchase. So to me, that's very important to maintain the neighborhood, because what happens in a lot of our neighborhoods, people move out and they start renting out. And then a lot of this house, they'll divide into 4 or 5 different apartments. So that changes the whole neighborhood. There's nothing like home ownership.
I agree, Commissioner Gordon. In my experience on both sides of the dais, people underestimate how important home ownership is in terms of stabilizing and maintaining a community.
So what he's asking for is already in here, or that's
Yeah.
something we could consider?
I think
So,
And what Commissioner Reyes asked for
It's
is already in here.
Yes.
so I want to be clear though. The document that you provided us today, right? This is something that you just provided to us. This is a little further than the details that we discussed regarding the community benefits arrangements, right? And so there are changes in here that I think are worthy of consideration. This is a development agreement, essentially, right? I want to be clear. So this document I have is a development agreement, and then part of it is also the SAP regulating plan.
Correct.
So the SAP regulating plan, the development agreement I know is PZ8. The SAP regulating plan, does that also travel with PZ8, or is that a part of a different document? How would you consider it?
That would be as part of PZ7.
Commissioner, this was our redraft revisions to incorporate what was presented. Obviously, staff and the city attorney and your office further have to review, but we think that this captures that.
And I understand that. But part of my issue with it is that, you know, there are parts of for instance, the SAP that allow for increases. So, for instance, I'm just going to read a line. Mechanical equipment on roof shall be enclosed by parapets. See that word? The minimum height necessary to conceal it, and the maximum height of what is now 15 feet, when before it used to be 10 feet. So there are differences from that, and I'm assuming
That's
from
not-
the previous document.
That's not a recent change, Commissioner. That was back in November, that change. That's that. What you might be looking at is some cumulative changes that were presented in November. You know,
The document that I have says draft 22219, and so my issue is this: so if you give me a draft that says 22219, I'm assuming that those changes were recently made, and that the changes that are underlined are going to be those that are recently updated, not from a draft from November. So let's look at the very first page. Magic City Innovation District Special Area Plan. We see all the red lines where things have been inserted. are you telling me that all of that is from November, or are you telling me that that is from 2/22?
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner, pardon me. What you see there is the regulating plan reflects the changes to Miami 21 for this SAP. So when this was presented back in November, it showed all of these changes to the regulating plan. The only changes, Commissioner, to the regulating plan, the only changes to the regulating plan that are different than were presented in November were what you just described here on the floor, which is the creation of the fund, the method of the funding the 31 million, and of course the change to the affordable workforce housing, which is now supplanted by the fund, as well as and that change reflected in this regulating plan.
So I'm reading from the draft 8/21/2018, and you are correct in that it appears that the same inserts, same underlying paragraphs are reflective on both documents. But what I want you to put your bar license on
When this
Is
process started, Commissioner, I didn't even need glasses.
is that there aren't any, because I have not read through this document that
I
you just
understand.
got.
But Commissioner, let me be clear and for the record. When the regulating plan,
Sir, please.
let me be clear for the record.
What is it we're trying to clarify right now?
No.
Well,
Go
the regulating plan sets forth how the special area plan regulations differ from Miami 21. So that is a series of strike-throughs and additions and deletions. That's what so what we just handed out now shows all of
that.
The only thing that's different from what was presented before in November are those items that relate to what Commissioner Hardiman set forth with respect to the community benefits and the community benefit agreement, and also how that's reflected in the regulating plan, which is basically the FLR on height is a matter of right, providing the 31 million is paid.
So what I'll do is this. I know that there's going to be a number of items that need to be read into the record, because these are land use, these are ordinance, etc. But particularly with the motion for the special area plan and for the motion for the development agreement, the regulating plan for the special area plan are going to include in the motion, when there is a motion, that whatever changes were in the draft of 8/21/2018, if they conflict with anything in the one that is titled February 22nd, 2019, that between first and second reading, that the August 21st, 2018 changes would apply. That's assuming if there are any changes. We know that there shouldn't be. The only changes would be just for the community benefit agreement.
And the other elements of the. No, that was maybe a couple of cleanup changes, but that would be correct, Commissioner.
Right. No substantive changes.
No
what I mean.
substantive changes.
And 10 to 15, I consider to be substantive. I know that's not one of them. I'm just describing. When you're changing from one height to another height, if there's a difference between one document and the other, that is a substantive change, is what I'm saying to you.
Right. Well, as was expressed, the only change from what was presented in November of substance is
CBA.
the the community benefits
That's what I
agreement,
expect.
and the fact that the height and FLR becomes a matter of right based on payment into the trust fund.
That is correct. I understand that.
So, if I could understand correctly, the $31 million is above and beyond all of the benefits that were to be paid from the bonuses that were originally sought?
No, it isn't, well, no, it isn't. It is in lieu of, now there are certain things, for instance, that we were gonna get credit for, such as the over 3 acres of public open space. We get no credit for that. There was also gonna be a requirement that we build office before we could build residential. There were other public benefits which we would get credit for to allow us to access bonus height and bonus FLR. What the commissioner wanted was, we pay, all that now becomes a matter of right, the total FLR and the total height, but for every inch of height and FLR, we pay, and it's roughly $4 for every foot. So if we don't access the bonus height and we use the FLR, we still pay.
Understood. So this is the flexibility of an SAP where you're able to do this, where otherwise you would have had to earn each one of those things piecemeal and they'd go to something specifically already designated. We're able to give that to you as of right, and then within the SAP agreement or an additional proffer,
Correct.
based on a square footage basis or however we had wanted to calculate it, you come up with an amount that matches that in lieu plus plus.
Correct, and that's how, that's why you.
I think I understand.
That's why you amend the regulated plan.
So of the 31 million, how much would have originally gone to the in lieu portion that we're talking about?
One thing I can say is that this payment, this guaranteed payment, is greater than the guaranteed payments would have been under the version that was before you in November.
Yes, no, for sure. I mean, there was nothing contemplated in the benefits package that was at the level of 31 million.
So the number I'm given is, it would have been 13 million. This is a 31 million guaranteed payment.
Got it. So almost 20 million was in lieu of the additional is the 13 that's been negotiated additionally.
Well, we would have been able to have gotten additional height and FLR, but we wouldn't have had to pay for all of it. We would have had other things credited against it, like open space. That's out now. We pay the $31 million, whereas before we would only have to pay, I guess, roughly $13 million without guaranteed, without any credits.
Got it. And so now we take the 31, at least the 20-ish out of the normal process of seeking those entitlements, put it all in the SAP. We take this out so it's got more freedom, as the commissioner said. A lot less strings attached for us on how we can spend it within the community. All of the guidelines for how it can be spent are in here.
Well, there's a piece of legislation the commissioners referred to that has to be created, which
That'll be created to create that board, right?
right.
But are the boundaries of where it can be spent labeled in this document?
Yes.
So so whatever board we create will be bound to whatever's agreed in here.
Yes.
And so
These obligations, this development agreement, which all the SAPs have, is going to be recorded and bind the property for the life of the development agreement, which means that whether this group or let's say they sell off a portion, there's an obligation to pay that money for any building that's built.
got it. And
into that trust fund that you are creating specifically and exclusively for use in Little Haiti.
in Little Haiti. And is the makeup of that board designated here, or is that what's created in the separate
No,
legislation?
that's separate legislation.
And so, what is the timing of how this would come? The legislation for creating the board, the second reading for this, the payments. When would that fund be populated, and how quickly could it be spent, and in what way?
Well, what we have written up says it must be created within 90 days of adoption. But this really is the city commission's. City commission can create this vehicle as fast as it wants.
Right. but the buckets are designated in here, what it has to be spent
The
on.
general categories, yes.
Right. So, I mean, Commissioner Reyes, you were talking about education. Which section of this is most appealing to you, and what would you add, or is it perfect as it is?
Well, I think that all sections are appealing because we need housing. We need education. We need also we need to train people. Residents in order to work. You see, the hiring of residents is very important because as Commissioner Ammons was talking about trying to provide home ownership, but and also they said, okay, affordable housing, but we need people from the community to be working in order to buy those housings. That house, those houses, and also they have to have some income to pay for those affordable housing. In order
So
for them to be affordable.
so the 31 million can be used for purchasing affordable housing or subsidizing additional.
It could be used, as I do understand, to start a program with our land that is available, that we can either develop some of those some housing that have been designated for home ownership.
So that's for our land. Could it be used to buy land?
That is up to the committee that it's going to be formed. If it is.
No, but is it designated in
Yes.
here the types of housing we
No,
could do?
but let me tell you, the way that I understand it, the committee that is going to be formed is going to make the decisions based on the feasibility of the project, or what are we going to do, and the benefits that they are going to provide to the community. You see, and we being there, I know that we will try to obtain the biggest bang for the buck.
Got it.
You see.
So you're very familiar with this, and I don't understand how I'm not. I haven't. This is the first I've seen this document.
No, me too.
First,
So this is the
none of us
first.
have
Okay,
seen
no,
it.
okay, then I understand.
I mean,
That's fine.
I just saw it.
Ah.
And, from what I heard, the commissioner was talking about,
Right.
and what I heard from the gentleman,
Yeah.
I can see clearly that those funds are going to be used for the benefit of the.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the packet that they passed out can be a bit deceiving. Part of
Good
it,
sign.
part of it is the development agreement, which is what it has been, right? For the most part, right? That's the development agreement. The other part of it is the SAP regulating plan, which is another thicker document. The information regarding the benefits, the community benefits agreements, is built from a much smaller sheet. I'm trying to find it in this document, but which is what I'm basically reading from a smaller document that was floated around. And this document is it gives the leeway, like for instance, development of affordable and workforce housing, community educational programming, local small business development, local workforce participation and hiring programs, beautification of Second Avenue and other areas of Little Haiti, that kind of thing is written out in this document. And so essentially, you want to give enough space for the trust to make educated decisions about how they want to spend the money to best affect that neighborhood. And so, as a sweetener, I'm saying as a district commissioner, look, I know that we have land within that space, within Little Haiti. The same way we have land in, for instance, Liberty City. And at one time, the Liberty City Community Revitalization Trust used to own land. And then CDBG took it over. And so they had some funds, they had some land. And now they don't have that land anymore, the CDBG has the land. And so, for instance, the Liberty City Community Revitalization Trust has had funding that they've used to assist with local small business development in renovating structure. They'll have one of the only sit-down restaurants in Liberty City that serves alcohol. Right? It does not exist. There's not a place for you to go there where you can have an alcoholic beverage and enjoy a nice meal in Liberty City. And I want to make that very plain. I want to explain it even better. When you go to a restaurant and you order a cocktail and you have a sandwich and you're with your wife and she has a wine, you cannot do that in Liberty City. From 46th Street to 77th Street, from 7th Avenue to keep going into the county, 22nd Avenue if you like. You can't do it. And so we'll have one of those spaces because of the work that Liberty City Trust has done. And so what I want to do is I want to begin to re-empower these organizations and create another one that has the land to assist with building the affordable housing for ownership purposes, that we want to see homes pass from one to the next family members, but then also
Business development.
right. And so that's what this CBA is all about. But the trust itself has to be legislation that's going to be proposed on this dais. It'll have 2 readings. You have public comment. The structure is going to be put right here before this body. So that's something that's going to be done. And before the money is released from Magic City, the trust is going to have to be put into place.
Understood.
Chair, may I just, if I may just, thank you, Commissioner Hardeman, just to make sure that it's crystal clear. The document that was passed out, the the development agreement and the regular grant, is the exact same document that was considered in November. The only thing that is different is the community benefits section, which is exactly as Commissioner Hardeman has explained, which starts on page 16 and goes to page 18 of the development agreement. And there were some definitional terms that were also changed to accommodate that. Commissioner Reyes's items as well, in terms of first opportunity to neighborhood residents for jobs, training, job fairs, outreach, has always been in that agreement and starts on page 21 approximately.
And we spoke about that when the first time you
So
came.
that's always been in here. So that is those are the only, and that hasn't changed, that's always been here. So the only change is the community benefit agreement and the definitional terms and the portions of the regulating plan that relate to that, period. Otherwise, this is the same document as has been in public domain for months.
So there's now a community benefits contribution section, whereas before there was only a public benefits contribution, which are 2 different things.
Understood. So how does the flow of the funds work? What triggers the first payment, and how this 31 million, of which the 31 million, what is the maturity of that? How does that get paid? And is it all guaranteed, or is it as it's developed and only if developed?
Well, here's what it is. So as Commissioner Hardeman explained, the first $6 million is virtually immediately upon adoption of the SAP. In other words, once the SAP is finally adopted, and the appeal, what?
The first payment.
Name, please.
I'm gonna go through that.
Okay, it's not.
Yeah, no, I said virtually. I said I was gonna walk him through
I guess
it.
he
you
writes
know?
the check.
Jason almost wrote a check.
That's right.
Jason almost wrote a check.
So, the way it is being handled is once the SAP is finally approved and the period for appealing the approval has passed so that it is final, the first payment of $3 million into the fund, once it's created, will be paid in 90 days. Thereafter, 180 days after that, another $3 million will be paid. And then, and that $6 million will be also applied for the first 2 or 3 buildings or so that will be built on the property. Approximately 1,400,000 square feet.
And it's based on the square footage,
Right.
on that $4 something per square
Thereafter,
foot.
every single foot that's built, there has to be a payment into the fund of $4 per foot. So when another 1 million feet are built, another $4 million goes into the fund.
Understood. And so, what is your timeline overall for the entire project? Because to see when the community could really use the bulk of these funds. If it's about purchasing land, for example, which it sounds like this is able to do, That's a significant bulk at one time, for example.
Of
So-
course,
But we have land. That's the sweetener. I want you to remember that there is land that we have within the city of Miami that we already own that these dollars can be applied to.
In Little Haiti.
That's correct.
And so then those dollars could be applied toward that.
What Commissioner Harriman is referring to is that we have land. It's the city of Miami, we have land. And that land, you see, with this funds, we can develop that land using these funds as leverage or whatever. You see, that would benefit the community. And
Understood.
It could be for affordable housing, or it could be for home ownership.
Understood?
I am correct, Mr. Hanneman?
Correct.
That's what I understand.
And so the makeup of the board is not decided here. The number of members are not decided here. Who appoints those members are not decided
that's
here.
all your decision.
The representatives, whether they're commission appointees or neighborhood appointees, or there's no mandatory seats based on this.
All your
Up to
decision.
us.
It's all up to us.
Yes.
It has to be done within the process between.
Right.
Between
The
these.
only thing that is identified within this, well, one of the things that's identified within this document is a benefit that is for a group that helped negotiate terms, which is a group had nothing to do with necessarily what they negotiated, but this is concerned leaders of Little Haiti, and on page 18 of the document, it's described that there is a $6 million of the total amount that's going to be paid over time. $6 million of that funding, which is $1 million up front, is going to be available for projects and programs that are identified or selected by the concerned leaders of Little Haiti. But they make recommendations still to the trust. I can't tell you the exact makeup of the group, but they include leadership that everyone knows: Gypsy Metellus, Father Reggie, and other individuals that are dear to the community. When we initially sent Magic City out to go meet with the neighborhood, they met with the neighborhood. They went to negotiate on behalf of the residents, and they came out with a deal, and we enhanced that deal. So we have money above and beyond what they have, but we want to ensure, well, actually it was Neil, to his credit, wanted to ensure that he honored the promise that he made to them. And so I want to find a way to include that language within this document so that everyone knows that no one took anything from the concerned leaders of Little Haiti, and that all these fundings are going towards either the boundaries within Little Haiti or the concerned leaders of Little Haiti programs and initiatives.
Understood. So we are on first reading here. This has one more reading, which would come when?
Thank you for asking that question, because to that end, I do need to put on the record that we will have to refer the land use amendment, which is a component of this package, to the Department of Economic Opportunity in Tallahassee, and that process may take somewhere between 3 and 4 months. We are certainly going to work eagerly to make it potentially less, but that is the approximate time. So I would suggest that if we're managing timeframes at this point in time, that we give ourselves 4 months to get the needed approval from the DEO.
I would request it, their term, that they, within 45 days, we'd have to have a response. So I would request respectfully that this be scheduled for second reading in 2 months. And if for some reason they haven't replied, we could roll it over another month, but we really don't need more than 2 months between now and the state's review and second reading.
Got it.
And the other thing I would say is, if I may, they have a tenant ready that they're anxious to begin working on developing their facility, which will create a number of jobs and investments. So time is a factor. So we would request second reading in 2 months.
Got it.
Can you also describe on the record, please, in your own words, exactly the way that you're going to title this development? Like, how are you going to create signage and things? What will it actually read?
It's going to be the Magic City Innovation District Little Haiti, Miami, Florida.
I'm
Just,
sorry.
just a moment, please. We're not open for public comment right at the moment. We're still learning as much as we can about this this proffer, and I certainly have to compliment Commissioner Hardiman for fighting for the community to get as much as he possibly can. The fact that this is even out there and available is very noble.
No, I want to give kudos to the community that fought for itself.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm not familiar with the entire process that got us here, but here's my issue, and I know the fellow commissioners agree with me. We don't approve things on first just to figure things out and learn more, because I could read all this between first and second and we'd be good. First reading is momentum, and we need to know that what we're getting into is what we understand we're agreeing to, and the devil's in the details. This is huge. The potential for this is beautiful. I really enjoyed seeing even the concepts when you first brought them of the potentials for art and innovation, and I hear a very sincere, I believe, interest in preserving this community. That is in here, or it isn't.
Yes,
And
Commissioner.
I believe that it is.
Chair,
but I believe that it
this
is. But
this is the same
Please.
document that you've had since August.
with due respect,
Except
$31
for
million is new today.
That's
that wasn't here before.
The one feature that's new.
20 of it had been previously allocated to other buckets based on a system that we have in place. We've set that aside, which we legally can do. I support that. I support the flexibility of the funds. I support a system of oversight with a board that can allocate those funds. These are all things that I support very, very, very much. But this is something new that none of us have seen until this moment. It's tremendous.
No.
It can be great.
Correct. Correct. What we haven't seen is the changes that were made.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
because
No.
the
Yes, I
document,
studied very well the
we
original
all
SFP.
discussed this, and we all talked to them, and there was an offer made
Yeah.
before, and now they come with this offer and with some changes. That's
These 3 pages are all that's new.
Yeah.
These 3 pages, which deal with the
16
new.
to 18.
Right. That's it.
16 to 18.
All the other 100 or so pages this city has had for months, and had been in the public domain for months, and was considered in November.
Got it.
Nisa,
I understand. The Commissioner Carollo.
we used to have a lot more fun in Rio. Huh?
Excuse me. I also can't hear Commissioner.
Just a joke, Lucy. I said we used to have a lot more fun in Rio than what you're having now. That's a joke back when we were both mayors, and well, it's another story. The former governor of the state of Rio de Janeiro is a friend. Basically, I think you've, and I congratulate your clients, you upped the ante quite a bit, which is good because that area needs it. And I like what I'm hearing, that the money's going to be used for. I think this could end up in the way that it will make everybody win-win. The city will have a big area that's going to be changed, revitalized. It's going to bring more income. It's going to give that area jobs, in addition to better housing and more housing. And on top of that, there's going to be quite a bit of dollars that you're putting aside. I thought you were going to write the check when you got up, but okay.
Can I also say something?
Yes, sir.
There are going to be impact fees that are going to be generated from this project, of course. And one of the things that I've also heard from the community, not necessarily Little Haiti, but Palm Grove community, is that there could possibly be a negative effect upon them through traffic, etc. And so this is not necessarily included in what this is, but I'm going to ask my colleagues that we designate that a percentage of the fees from the impact go towards the concerns that are being that need to be addressed in the Palm Grove neighborhood. So traffic calming, planning, if they need studies, whatever it takes to get
Infrastructure,
things taken care of in Palm Grove. So the number that I was looking at was about 70% of those impact fees that go towards helping to ensure that whatever this development is, it doesn't have a significant negative impact on the neighborhood that's just adjacent to it.
Commissioner, that's very appropriate. In fact, I will say this to you. That neighborhood doesn't have the opportunities that some of our other districts have in getting any impact fees because there's so little development of sizable portions there. So as far as I'm concerned, 100% of the impact fee should definitely be spent in that area.
Just to improve the infrastructure and traffic and all of it, that's fantastic.
Can I read something into the record?
Is that something that we can do within our
Let's say
existing?
I would say that it's policy. We can say, it's basically, it's what we're going to use that money for. It's just a restriction that we placed upon ourselves.
Of the impact fees.
Of the impact fees.
And
So
what would be the border under which that's separate legislation, right?
Yeah, that's why I say it's different from this. But there are going to be impact fees that are generated. And what I'm saying is that I want the Palm Grove neighborhood and neighborhoods that are, abutting this development to have the benefit of using those impact fees for what they can be used for. Traffic calming, you can do it for expanding streets, you can use it for enhancing parks in certain ways. So there's a lot of impact that can come out of it. That we've used impact fees in all of our districts to do some wonderful things. I want to ensure that whatever wonderful things that we do, it's being used in the Palm Grove, etc.
Obviously, where the impact happens is where the benefits should come, because that's where you're mitigating an actual impact. I would love to see legislation that brings that forth, that we, Francisco, that we have a method to fairly distribute and capture impact fees for where the impact happens, and this is a perfect case of it.
So, and the thing about, I want to be very careful about the language that you just said, because because what ended up happening is in the past, in District 2 especially, you would have lots of impact fees that were generated, and we would have regional parks, for instance, that would get traffic from certain areas but didn't get any impact fees to help with building or with enhancing those spaces. And so that's why the language is very, very, it's very touchy.
Right. Oh, no. Let's be clear. District 2 creates the impact fees for the entire city.
District 5 is about to create something like that.
Exactly. And that's great.
That is something different. That is something different. Let not get the cart before the horses. There are certain special, I would say neighborhoods that they are in dire need of a lot of investment.
Yeah.
But your idea,
Like
I don't
CRA
agree with it. Whatever it is generated is going to be spent there, because all the impact fees that happen in downtown Miami won't go to us. And let not be so ambitious. I mean, we will do one thing at a time, and that is for another discussion.
Absolutely. I love the concept.
Okay.
I think we're going to talk about it holistically, and it is another subject. But for this situation, that's not contemplated here in this document. So let's stick to what we've got for tonight.
If I might address, we have talked to the Palm Grove neighborhood, and even though we haven't received any type of consent for them, one thing that we are offering is that if we create some sort of a traffic impact, we're willing to do a traffic calming study for them to make sure that, for instance, if the area was busy at the time that the kids were going to school or something like that because of the amount of traffic, we would do a traffic calming study. We would take a look at whether it's feasible and do a study on a trolley system there. We won't pay for the trolley system, but we'll do the study to take a look at whether the city should be doing that. We'd look at also doing some entrance signs, 2 entrance signs at Palm Grove to identify their neighborhood and we look at enhancing the Eaton Park, which is directly over the railway tracks adjacent to our property, so we'd be good neighbors on both sides of the tracks.
There's some other things you want to add?
Mr. Chair, one other item,
Yes.
if I may. Directly responsive to the direction of Commissioner Hardeman with respect to benefiting, and the others, Commissioner Reyes and Commissioner Carollo, the immediate community. We would also state for the record that we will commit that advertisements for job opportunities must include Haitian radio and television stations and local churches in furtherance of our local outreach for jobs. Also, that the developer must keep the name Little Haiti within all signage and branding relating to the final name of the Magic City SAPM project. That the developer will also establish a pipeline internship program for young Haitian and minority professionals to obtain professional careers and employment within the organization of the developer and its affiliates. And finally, and I think this is a matter of law, so it goes without even needing to be stated, the community benefits package will be binding on the developer, its successors, and assigns, which it will be as part of this recorded development agreement.
And I also want to make sure, I want to put this on the record as well, including within the motion that whatever comes, is that the funding that's coming for this $6 million and the $31 million that comes thereafter, because of their large amounts, that they're not subject to the transportation, what is it called, like a transportation, it's not a tax, but a transportation impact fee, something that was generated by our wonderful mayor, Francis Suarez. I don't want to pay him. I want to pay the community. So there's a percentage of dollars that go towards transportation related issues. It goes to like a little bank.
Yes,
and so I want to ensure it's excluded.
I
from
second that idea. Okay.
All right, so I think, are there any further questions from the dais on this issue and how this works? All right, we're now going to open up for public comment. We're going to do very similar to last item.